Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Kara Carmack, the Exhibitions and Public Programs Officer at the New York Studio School, and I'm honored to welcome you to the final week of our Spring 2023 Evening Lecture Series. This season has flown by, and I hope that you've enjoyed each and every lecture as much as I have. I'd like to remind everyone that our YouTube channel hosts an incredible archive of lectures, past and present. So if you missed one or want to revisit a favorite, visit our page on YouTube at any time. We're thrilled to have Shanna Waddell with us tonight to speak on her work. But before we begin, I would like to note that the New York Studio School Evening Lecture Series is free to the public with support in part by the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council, the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Additional funding is generously provided by the Robert Lehman Foundation, the Samuel H. Kress Foundation, and individual donors. Please consider making a donation to help keep our evening lecture series free by clicking on the support button on our homepage. Thanks to those of you joining us virtually and here on 8th Street. We'll reserve time at the end for a Q&A with the audience. For those in the room, please raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you so our online audience can hear your question. For our Zoom audience, please submit your questions by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Following the lecture, please join me and our guests downstairs in the clay room for light refreshments. Now I'm delighted to introduce our event and speaker this evening. Shanna Waddell, An Introduction to Sheness Society, debuts Shanna's project in world building through a series of works that depicts a self-sustaining flower farm artist commune. This artist commune is both an exercise in imagination and also a contemplation and dialogue with models of art history and art making. Waddell absorbs and adapts the primarily masculine modes of painting with pure freedom and interjects her spirit into ideas for future models of living. Waddell lives and works in Los Angeles. Now please join me in offering a warm welcome to Shanna.
Hi, thank you for coming, and thank you for the people on Zoom who are watching. So yes, I am Shanna Waddell, and I'm an artist, and I live in Los Angeles. And I have the pleasure to show you all this really cool stuff that I've done and that I will continue to do in the future. Yeah, I'll start here. When I was younger, I went to undergrad, and I was really interested in topics like beauty and the sublime and aspirational communities. And the aspirational communities were alternative people, maybe hippie types, or just people that got together and made some type of community where they got together and, you know, had a vision and went through with it. So I did a lot of research at Tyler School of Art about how this would look like for someone, or what these people might do. And I thought about home and how the shelter is a really special place for us as human beings, and what it might look like. It might look like, in my kind of special world, maybe the woods, and you can see a little garden on the floor there, and I put a little record player, it looks like, and just kind of like this beautiful installation, right? This was back in 2008 or so. So this is another studio I had at Tyler School of Art, and I did a lot of experimenting and used a lot of materials to, like, snow and tea and paint to experiment on. You know, as being an artist, you kind of want to see what materials do. And there's the teepee again. It's like a sign of hope, the rainbow. Here's a drawing of kind of that previous slide, kind of like a sunbeam, sheltery space. There's another shape here that came up. So you have like this kind of teepee structural triangle space, but the vessel's shape in the large painting in the background is a shape that continues to go throughout my practice. And I've noticed that particularly that certain artists hold on to different shapes, and this shape runs throughout my whole practice, and it is a bit of a form to house all the ideas that I have, because I have a tremendous amount of ideas, as everybody probably does here, but it feels like a bit of a vessel to hold all the information. So it's kind of flipped around here, and I made this for my MFA show at Tyler School of Art back in 2010, and it feels like a bit of a future predicting painting, because it looks a lot like where I live now in San Pedro. There's a lot of cliffs and there's the sea, and I noticed that artwork tends to kind of predict the future in a way. It could be that it's already in you, and that you're just going to manifest it of some sort, or that it's just kind of letting you know where you'll be. So this is the vessels, and it's the vessels that have formed into different types of imagery. The body, its dresses, it's a container, it's an apron, it's a bathing suit, it's a dress, it's a composition, it's a boat, it's a vessel. So I'm a little different from other artists, but there's a couple of us out there. But what I'm doing is I'm making a visual novel. So all these artworks are in, it's a big experiment that I'm making. It's a big, it's kind of a movie in a way. So there'll be a beginning and the end, and I'm making it for the community. And there's guides. Oh, there's a little video here. I forgot about this. But I make collage work too. So I'm not just a painter. And you probably saw the installations, but yeah. this is my current studio. I'm making this book for Spurs Gallery coming up. They're going to be making it for the general audience to have. Okay, so this book. So the book is going to be when I'm maybe like 70 or something, and I'll have a retrospective, and I'll be able to put all the art together in order. And I made a lot of work right after graduate school about a lot of cults and cult-like figures like Jonestown and Heaven's Gate, Kurt Cobain, River Phoenix, and Satan. And these were the embodiments of that cycle that I had in my first, one of the first slides about beauty and the sublime. And oftentimes as we go about trying to create a community, they tend to have really amazing arcs, like creating some type of hope, right? Creating some kind of stamina, and then it'll kind of circle around and create like this kind of pattern where then it kind of falls apart or something is wrong about it, right? But what I was really interested in trying to do is paint this type of like, I couldn't paint about government, so I wanted to like paint about like a smaller thing. And when people make communities, they're like these kind of mini governments. So I just kind of found myself making work about these particular subjects. And one of them was Jonestown. I made only a couple works because it was pretty tough to kind of research about it. But what I really enjoyed about Jonestown is that they came together and they made an agricultural project. And they had some kind of an aspiration, but it went way wrong. And here's some drawings from it, the mass suicide and such. So this was in graduate school as well. I was interested in this type of space that enveloped you. It like took you in and before the circle came in, it became a type of void space, but I was interested in a type of painting that was all-encompassing and kind of sublime and chaotic, and I tried to create the feeling of what Jonestown community might have felt at the end of their endeavor. So this is after the fact. There's a bit of like a new growth. So then I jumped over to Heaven's Gate, and this is another kind of like, it's a part of this kind of a masculine type of chapter. So I always knew that when I was in school or like just in general that I would make a chapter that was very masculine and very feminine. And while I was on the East Coast, I made all these kind of culty paintings, and they were a bit, I had a lot of teachers that were abstract painters, and then I had a really strong foundational teaching, a lot like this school, where you're able to know how to paint the figure as well. So I had like two different schools of thoughts kind of running through me, and had a lot of ideas, and they put a lot of ideas in my head, but I had this really strong urge to make this work about Applegate and their community, and a lot of these people were kind of California-based, not all of them are, but I'm interested in like California and how people just get really entranced by an idea or a people's group. And I really liked the compositions of how they were laying in their beds with their Nikes, and I just was really excited about how they aspired to ideas like a comet in the sky and how they were able to fly with the comet. And when they did pass, they had change in their pocket so that they can call back to the community to let them know that they made it back, or they made it like to their kind of hill bop destination. So these are like floating kind of passages, and these are a lot of burials. There's a lot of deathbeds. So these are a type of kind of beds. This is kind of where the abstract references are coming in. So these guides, these people or these communities are for reference for sheness society. They're able to learn about their history, but I'll get a little bit more into that later. So I made work about Kurt Cobain, and you can see a lot of, it feels very, very East Coast. And I was making these in Philadelphia, and had shown these at Thomas Urban Gallery. So the guides chapter, so I guess all these are going to be chapters in a book. And the community sheness society that I'll be showing you soon will be able to refer back to the guides as they start their community. And there's they're flower farmers and such, but I'll get into that a little bit later. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I also did work on River Phoenix. River Phoenix was a part of like a cult when he was younger. And what I really wanted to do for him was give this kind of ancestral type of vehicle. And this is like a type of light vehicle. And I wanted to give him a bit of a funeral and show like this angel going through and kind of transporting yourself and honoring his work that he did. A lot of what he was, his like lifestyle was being a vegan, and he's a pretty cool guy. And then there's Satan. I made work about Satan. So I think Satan is really, what I really was drawn about him was that he was the most beautiful angel, right? And it kind of mirrors that cycle of beauty. So going back to my initial ideas of like a flower, it blooms, right? And then it goes through this cycle, and it like dies and stuff, but it's like a seed, and there's a sense of birth, and the winds come, and then it blows it down, so it seems, I liked the idea of Satan because there's this initial like enticement, right? And you like this object, this thing, and then it kind of goes through this like turmoil or something, and it's not the same anymore. It's not beautiful, right? So I made this is called Bob Satan. It was made in 2013, and you have oil paint, spray paint, gift wrap, and canvas. So Bob is from the Twin Peaks series. This is called Light Vehicle Satan. So there's oil, spray paint, silver leaf, gift wrap, glitter. So I'm still very interested in like alternative surfaces, not just oil paint. I enjoy lots of things, but these kind of felt like ancestral type of like spaces that you can learn from. So when I talk about sheness society, they're going to be able to refer back to my older work. And this is the older work. And they guide the community. And part of the guide is that they enjoy art history too. And that through this process, I've been able to kind of have a really transformative approach to art history since I'm creating this massive world. Essentially, I am the creator, so I get to choose anything that I want from this world. And it's really specific what kind of objects or what they're allowed to know about. So you have the form. So there was this kind of incubation time that I needed to create these type of feminine type figures, these people. I needed to create the community. So at this point, they're kind of hanging out, and they're kind of this vessel shape that I was talking about. And we're starting to see a little bit of the flower farm here. This is plaster on canvas, and you can see the carnations that are coming in, and the sea. I live right near the sea, so there's a lot of these kind of inserted objects, lace. Later you'll see that the people I like to paint have very beautiful dresses or garments. So there's a cleansing period too. This was a very in-between space. So I have Listerine in there, and that dandruff shampoo. But the forms were waiting and incubating. They were a type of kind of birthing. They enjoyed hanging out at the beach and smoking cigarettes and hanging out on their towels. But they were getting ready to make sheness society. There's BO5 in surfboard wax and sunglasses. And this time I was too preparing for kind of a great chapter. It was very much like it felt like I was pregnant and waiting and cleansing the past as well, cleansing kind of this masculine chapter. So you can see that I really enjoy the sun. And I feel like Edvard Munch's work, The Sun in Oslo, I went there. Man, that thing's massive. It's bigger than this room. Like, if you ever get to go and see the sun, and I understand why now, that Edvard Munch made the sun, because it's really dark there in the winter. I went during winter solstice, and it was so dark, and I understand why people would need to visit that sun painting, because I don't know. So I got to understand Edvard Munch a bit more, and I love the sun. But again, they're smoking cigarettes, and they're watching VR. So that's a Sony VR. So again, they're kind of in their own world, and they're waiting for me to create sheness society. This is Sunny Cigs, oil spray paint, cloth, cigarettes, paper glue, sea debris, carpet, feathers, wood. So it was super fun during this time as well. Splattering, experimenting, just learning about plaster and getting this kind of feminine spirit energized to come. And I knew that this next chapter would be very tremendous. So I got a lot of things in my life in order to do it as well. This one's really special. It feels intergalactic. They're wearing their VR. They're having some pretzels. There's birds flying in the air. There's makeup. They're getting ready. There's nipples, hands with braids. So I decided to start Sheness Society, and it started with my studio becoming very much about collage and paper and trying to collect imagery. And I then made the beginning of Sheness Society. So this collage is inspired by Edvard Munch's son here that I was talking about earlier. But it's a ton of just trash everywhere. And it's the beginning of the book. So if I were to put it together, this would be like the first kind of image, like the map of Sheness Society. It was a really fruitful time, and it was very celebratory, and I needed the immediacy of paper and plastic and collage and trash and art supplies to make the artist community. They're painters and they enjoy painting, and it looks like they have one Volkswagen van. And Monet's invited too, he's down there. And we definitely need art supplies, right? But they love painting each other in this kind of foresty, kind of beachy community. They love watering the garden. And this is the night version of that. So and they love full moons, and they go out and they paint the full moon. And since they're flower farmers, we got sunflowers, and it's just a very celebratory time because I was able to start my commune and what they would do. And this was a type of world that I made here. It's a floating chair. And there's some details here installed in a space in LA. But it floats, and I kind of made this kind of a chair, and it was great because I'm like, this is my world. So there's collage too. You can see them painting each other, and it was a fire season too. So you can see this type of fire environment. This was during the pandemic as well. So what does Sheness do, you guys? They do all kinds of stuff. So they're flower farmers, and they grow their produce as well. But what's nice is that they're able to work together and sustain the farm and stuff, but they're able to paint together too. And there's a type of fashion going on as well. And I often find that when we feel like we have nice garments on, there's a transformation. So it looks like that you can kind of choose what you want to wear, because oftentimes there's like a community color that's going on, and then maybe an individual type of thing. This is a little painting of a moonset session at the flower farm, Sheness Morning Flower Farm and Moonset Painting. So she's gathering little cosmos, and they're gathering flowers, and there's people painting the moon going into the sea. So there's a really special, I live in a very special spot called San Pedro, California, and it's right on the coast. And one day I moved there in 2019, but man, I got a really special view one day. The moon was setting into the ocean. I woke up early and I was just kind of walking around. And I'm like, wow, there it goes. So it sparked great content for me. So this is called Sheness Gathers Paint Supplies for the Full Snow Moonset. So they're out there and they have the community wagon and community art supplies, and they have their easels, and there looks like there's a fire going. And you can see this kind of arch of the moon, and that was inspired by going to Norway and seeing the sun just kind of going into this little arch. So this is a little glimpse into their world. Whenever you see them out, it's kind of like I'm showing you the space, I'm showing you the world. And you can see the cosmos here. There's a lot of cosmo gathering. It's right near the sea. The sea is coming in. And there's community studios in the back. So as of yet, I've only painted the outside of Sheness Society. There's no interiors, and in the future, I will be painting inside. But the activities, what I'm showing, is what's going on in the community right now outside. And this painting kind of feels like a precursor to my next show with the Spurs Gallery, where I'll be painting the whole basin of mountains kind of all around you and the sea, which feels a lot like the LA basin. It'll be like a type of room that you enter into. But it looks like here they also enjoy fibers. There's a little fibers area as well. They do all kinds of things. Oh, more activities. What kind of activities are they doing? They love moonset paintings. So it feels like when I go out and I make my moonset paintings, it feels like they're making the paintings, especially when there's no people in the painting. The POV certainly feels like one of them have made the painting, and that we're seeing it through their eyes, or that they're going for a walk and we're able to see their vision. This is called Sheena's Study of September Harvest Full Moon. So again, I'm making them, but they certainly feel like they're making them, especially these small ones right now. This is the February snow full moon. These are from June, the strawberry full moon set. This will be in my upcoming show at Jack Barrett Gallery in a couple of weeks. That'll open up soon, and she's painting the moonset near the sea. And then here's a collage of lots of activities like moonset painting and collecting shells. And this is Sheena's collects seashells near the seashore. I have a little, my personality, I'm kind of a jokester too. So, but this is very much inspired by Vouliard and where I live. And I can walk a couple blocks and I have seashells right at my little doorstep. But certainly, I feel like there's a bit of a collaboration that I'm having with other artists, and Vouliard is amazing. They also, the community will be making still life paintings and floral still life paintings. And this is 2 of their still life paintings. So it's nice to feel like they are making it. They decide to make still life. They decide to preserve a type of history that may or may not kind of fleet away, but a floral still life painting is just so special. So it's nice to feel that they enjoy making, and they're setting up their community with flowers to be able to make still lifes like this and like this. So again, if there's no person in the painting, they are making the painting. Sheness takes time to gather, feed, and launder. 2021. Again, another kind of embodiment of a person like Vouliard. So the community has access to my guides, and they have access to art history as well. So it's kind of a limited thing. So it's nice that they can refer to other artists from the past. They gather firewood and kale. They gather edibles like eggplants and lettuce and kale and blueberries. This feels a lot like a collaboration with Monet and Redon. This is their garden. This is at the water's edge. This is certainly inspired by Monet. Sheness walking amongst moonlit flowers, 2021. This was at M&B last April. Sheness takes time to paint and walk. So I have a type of way that I kind of construct my paintings. So I have a condition called aphantasia, where I don't have a mind's eye. So aphantasia means without fantasy. So I don't read much. I don't read novels because there's nothing going on in my mind. And I see number one. And some people have hyperaphantasia, where they see the lamb in their head really vividly. So I put this little imagery to kind of show how I don't really have anything going on in my mind, but I have a lot of facts in my head because I see the world very objectively, and I really look. And I really love art history. So there's a little example of how I compile a painting generally. You've got Edvard Munch here painting. So I thought, well, let's make a nice person painting like Edvard Munch. We've got Ensor, and you have a little lady here with the Ensor hat. You've got the Van Gogh raining. So I thought, well, maybe we'll do a little rain as well. And we've got Edvard Munch's stones, right? So this is generally how I like to construct my paintings. I do a lot of collage, but mostly a reference to the world. And what's exciting about referencing the world is that we have a big oyster to work with, right? And for the longest time, it was a bit intimidating to think about history. But what's nice is I found a new freedom that I can paint anything I want and I can pull it from any time. And this is a bit of a new revelation for me, but it's very empowering to know that I can do whatever I want, and I'm very excited to do it. And I'm very excited to make this world happen. So I got really excited about moonset paintings, and I just kept having these people go to the moon. So it looks like they're at the shore here, and I'm showing palettes and gathering cosmos, and so there's maybe a type of El Greco reference and Bonnard in the sea. They enjoy painting in eclipsed moonlit chamomile fields as well. Certainly love Van Gogh and that lamp, right? So I really got invested in that lighting. So I made that little lamp for them when they go out, because they need to see. So sometimes I make work where it's like they need objects. Like right now I'm making art supplies in my, like I'm painting art supplies because they need it. Sheness paints the sunrise out at sea. Here's another really cool painting. So they're really fashionable too. I like having nice garments, and I don't know. There's and it refers to art history as well too. When you get your portrait painted, you want to put on your best. You don't have to, but a lot of people in the past did. What is the plan for Sheness society? So I am a world builder, and I'll be building their community, and they're going to do all those things that I talked about. This is the map that I like showing in my studio when you do a visit. And it is Florence, and it's beginning of a Renaissance period, and I feel like I'm kind of on the cusp of a Renaissance time for myself, because I'm creating this community, and I'm making really great stuff. And I like pointing out to people that there's people in the boat, and they're fishing, and they're at the shore, and there's a bit of a basin, and there's all these people hanging out. And you can see the person all over there. Looks like, I certainly think he's painting, but he's probably doing something else. But this is a type of map. This is one of their art studios that they've kind of taken over. So they're repurposing these type of castles for the community studios. And what's nice about this painting is that it shows a bit about of their foundational type of these stones here. Their foundational concerns like plein air painting and making early modernist painting and still lives, and they enjoy art making in general. So we're still outside, and this will be one of the paintings that will be coming up for the map of Sheness society, and there'll be 3 other ones. And it'll be a type of room that you'll be able to enter. And again, it'll look like that basin in Florence. So here's a foundational kind of early modernist abstraction that they made. So I'm just showing you a bit more about how they're painters, and they're plein air painters, and the community wagon has entered again. And the little studios in the back are a bit of a kind of like a future thing. They will be painting together in the studios. So once I enter into interiors, I'll be mirroring a lot of what was happened in the past and other histories. And I'm really excited about Monet's boat and how he went out and made little alternative studios. And I plan on doing that myself. But what's really interesting about Sheness society is that there's no authorship in terms of like putting your name on the back of the canvas. It's all for the betterment of the community, and they're going to figure out who's going to do some good things. Like they'll figure out who does a portrait really well, and they'll have them do the portrait, and they'll find out who else can make really nice, beautiful trees, and they'll be working on very large canvases together to make really nice paintings for the community. They're also going to sew garments in the future, so I'll be showing lots of fibers. And I might have a runway show, but it might look something different, but actualizing garments. This will be a whole series. This is a painting that will be at Jack Barrett Gallery in a couple weeks. April 28th will be the opening. And it looks like they've been collaborating with Klimt a bit here. She's holding some sweet peas, is Sheness Society, 69 by 47, 2023, oil on muslin. So I'm starting to use gold leaf again. It was really nice to experiment in the beginning of my practice, and now it's etching kind of back into my world. They're going to grow flowers and produce for seasons to come. This is an early spring where they're going to be sowing seeds. This is her in foxgloves hanging out in the garden. They will drink tea and have heavenly visions. So there's going to be a visions chapter in the beginning and the end. And I haven't made too much of this because I think it'll get a little too wild. I'm going to bury Sheness Society, and this will be the end of the book, but there will be many burials. There'll be an aging chapter. And that's pretty much it. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Shanna. Yeah, if you have any questions, please raise your hands.
Hi. I'm going to try to form this question in an articulate way. I was thinking about when you were talking about your transition from out of the beginning more masculine, and then when you were going, like with the painting with the Listerine, and like that kind of like when you sensed that you were going to be in this transitional time, like could you see clearly that you were, what the next step was going to be? And if so, like was that still, you were still able to like enjoy the process even though it was transitory? Do you know,
Yes.
that make sense?
Yeah, so that felt like a really, the cleansing, like I was going surfing a lot during that time and allowing the waves to kind of rush over like the past and myself. And I was embodying a great spirit. Felt like I was going to make a lot of feminine type of aspirational items. And like I kind of always knew that I'd have a very large masculine chapter and a very large feminine chapter. And it was a bit of a time for me to prepare as well, like financially, and to just know that there's going to be a great type of spirit that kind of envelops the feminine aspiration.
Thank you. That was really interesting. I was just wondering if there's like any yin-yang in the world, because I was really feeling safe, and then all of a sudden the devil showed up for that very brief time. And even though it was only like a very brief showing, it kind of like got me wondering, like, is it safe to be there?
Well, I hope that it's safe, and I think that the guides, they can refer back to the guides in case there's some kind of turmoil that happens. But it feels generally right now a type of safe space, and like an aspirational space for future artists to maybe strive to do. Like they don't need to call it Sheness Society, but they can go about their lives and maybe create work together like they've done in the past, and see what they want to do with that. You know, it feels very like, I'm not against individualism or anything because I'm an individual, but it might be an aspiring thing for people to do in the future, especially how mortgages are going. And it's very hard to be an artist right now. And if some people got together, and there are partnerships, there's people who work together on one body of work, but it would be interesting if we all got together and went to the woods and made art together.
Just one more question. what do you think about the color blue? And I'm just really curious about that. And how do you use color? Are colors symbolic to you at all?
I don't know what I feel about blue, but I feel that it's my duty to advance color in art history and to kind of bridge other past artists to point to their triumphs in their work through mine.
Hi. I really enjoyed that. It's beautiful. I have a question regarding Munch in Oslo. In Munch's work, whom I also love, I remember when I was there, I had a really bad sort of experience in the museum because it felt so. It was both clear, intense beauty coupled with an ominous air, and in coupling with thinking about like Heaven's Gate and Jonestown and the horror of those things, I noticed that in some of your paintings, coupled with the beauty, a sense of something ominous, and I was wondering if that makes any sense or if I'm inaccurate.
Yes, it certainly makes sense. I think that we're in a really trippy world, and it's very psychological, and I think I needed to research those people to figure out my own life, and and in my works in the future, like in my practice as well. How do I make my mind peaceful or make art and learn from past histories to inform a possible future? And it could be just for my practice and to understand the world, but it's a trippy situation we're in, I'll tell you that.
Well, and to build off that question, I was thinking about you as an artist. You're a creator, and you're creating these worlds, and you're creating these communities. But you're also the cult leader in some ways of this community. And thinking about, you had mentioned that the members of the community can always return to the guides, but the guides are, depending on how you're thinking about them, they led people astray, right?
Do.
So yeah, I think it's just like really interesting, that conflicting narrative. And then, you pointed toward the demise of this society. So which of course there's beauty and hope in death, but, does this society go astray? And you're the one who's fully in control of the ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, so there's another piece of paper that I didn't put on here, but it's kind of wild. But there's a couple boxes, because it lays out sheness society and what the visual novel will be, and I'll have a retrospective, and people just have all this. It's fun in my studio. But there's a couple boxes that are empty because I don't know what will happen. And it feels like there might be some kind of turmoil later. Mm-hmm. But I'm in a really good spot right now.
Great. I think we had a question online. Can you speak more to the Renaissance period the society is moving toward?
Ooh. Well, yeah, I guess I'm really trying to flourish that sense of Renaissance, like a new birth, right? And what that could look like. And you were talking about me being a type of cult leader, and I kind of am, but I am the creator, so therefore I'm allowed to put objects in and not. So whenever I put an object in, it's very intentional, thinking about maybe it like either informing or helping or not, and creating and I feel like I am in a very birthing sense of Renaissance and some very new feelings that I have, and it's because I've prepared for this.
Great, thank you.
Hi, that's some really amazing stuff. It's very, innovative and really interesting to hear you talk about it. And I'm wondering if you're have any other artists that you have seen or work, like Henry Darger, for example, is someone that I feel like creates that imaginary world that you're talking about. That's my first question. And the second one was, I think I missed something when you had that chart, like graph, not a graph, but you were explaining how you work. You mentioned a condition.
Yeah.
Is it an actual condition that?
Yeah, so it's called aphantasia, and it's fairly new, and I think more people have it than they actually know. They say like only a fraction of the people have it, but I feel as if the more research I have and I see all the like comments and threads, I think a lot of people don't have a mind's eye, or they don't have a clear picture. And there's various types of people that might have more fantasia, more like fantasy, but I have no imagery. So I think that I've made and I've created a lot of what Sheness Society is through a building so I can house my project in something that's actualized, since there's nothing going on in my mind. Not that like imagery, I have a lot going on, I'll tell you that, but there's no people running around. I don't see this. But what was really cool is I went to a school like this where I was able to draft. I did a lot of drawing and painting, so I'm a very good drafts person. So I'm able to construct what I need to construct.
Henry Darger.
Oh yes, and you nailed it. I love Henry Darger. He's great. I love Helma Off Klimt because she made work for the future, and I have a little kernel in my heart for a future artist. Thank you.
Okay, we have another online question. A lot of the artists that you cited as sources of inspiration are male, and the question is asking, what women artists are you looking at as well?
Well, I love looking at, I like Haley Joseph's work. She's really imaginative, and she has a mind that's really full and colorful, and so I think Haley Joseph is a really amazing painter.
Great, thanks. And then second part to that is a little bit more about your painting practice. How many hours do you spend painting each day? And I'm also curious with those photos of you painting at the beach at night, if you could speak to that experience.
Well, I as of yet, I've been able to be in my studio a lot more. So I guess I paint a long time, and I feel like I have to paint more because this next show, or this last show, I was like kind of a little nervous. So, maybe like 7 hours a day, but I feel like I need to put in 8 soon. And then I like waking up, so the full moon is really exciting. So I like waking up very early and getting out there and setting up. And I have a lot of ideas, like going out. My area is very beautiful. So I have a Monet spot. I have a lot of clips, so I'm going to be able to mirror art history.
Hi, one of the people you showed in the beginning as the inspiration was, I think, Kurt Cobain, right?
Yes.
Did he die of an overdose, or was it a suicide? Do you remember?
Well, I don't know if we really know, but I think there's like a little gun in there involved and stuff. But what I really liked about Kurt Cobain is that the community can look at Kurt because I think he might be still with us if he were maybe more of a mid-tier person, because they really shot him up and they gave him great theaters. And a lot of people came to his shows, and it might have gotten to him. So maybe if he only had a little crowd like this, he'd still be with us.
Okay, thanks. And then a related question is Jim Jones,
Yes.
and I think you showed a photo, or
Yes.
one or two photos of the people after they drank the poison or whatever
Yeah,
it
the
was.
Kool-Aid, yes.
Now, just logistically, I don't know why I've never thought of this before, but did he die first or did they die first, and then did he watch them die and then drink it himself? Do you know what happened, or did he even die with them? Do you know?
Yes, there were some people that didn't drink it to kind of watch to make sure that people were drinking it. I don't know when he drank it, but he did die there. But that history is very complicated. So I think I only made a couple works because it was a bit intense for me. But what I really liked was their aspiration for an agricultural project and how they started it. But then it goes haywire.
Okay, I'm glad you feel it goes haywire. Just one last little thing was, somehow this all made me think all of a sudden of like the ancient pyramids where there would be some big leader, and when that person died, presumably possibly a natural death, a lot of people would be buried with that
Yes.
leader who were like his associates, his
Definitely.
assistants. So
I would love to do that.
Somehow it made me think of all that. Anyway, it's very interesting. But I just want to say my two favorite artworks of yours were the two ones with the moons. The little ones with the moons. I love those. They're beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other questions for Shanna? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And please join us downstairs in the clay room for refreshments.